wanted to create an informational series that would help you plan for the weeks at home as a family due to this current coronavirus situation that many of us are experiencing. Now, usually I hop on camera and I smile and I look you in the eyes, and the format of this video, to be honest, is kind of a reflection of where we are now. So I have 3 kids home, my husband's working from home. There aren't as many spaces to clear, get the good light, and make videos for you, which normally happens when everyone's out of the house between 8 and 3. So part of it is this is why I'm doing it this way. I also want to make it accessible to as many people as possible, so you will be able to read as you go along. And the other thing is, to be honest, one of the things that I'm finding is super helpful right now is just having fun. And so you will see that as I created these slides, I definitely had fun with colors. It was fun to make them. I'm a designer by trade, and I just got to have a little fun, which felt really good as I showed up here to give you this content. Okay, so let's get to the first page. So first of all, this is going to be part of a series. And what I want to start with is that planning is simply deciding in advance the things that you can control in your life. This is always what planning is, whether we're in a crisis or not. Now, the interesting thing about right now is I think a lot of us feel like there's a lot less in control in our lives. And so it's really important to understand how planning can help you in this situation. And we're going to get into, over the course of this series, more of the things that we can control, because that's really important to learn. But just remember, planning is just deciding in advance. That's just really, really important, because I feel like in this time we're inclined not to plan. So here are some of the things I think we need to think about right now. We need to think about how to get our work done from home with probably a few more distractions than usual. If you're used to working in a crowded workspace, they might just be different distractions, littler ones. We need to figure out how to support our kids and learning, and also just getting through these days emotionally. We need to focus on eating, how we're going to eat, and possibly at some point with limited ingredients. So far, so good where we are. We also probably need to focus on moving our bodies when we feel stuck inside. Very often we can do that. We can stick ourselves inside, and there are ways to move our bodies. We need to focus on knowing what to do when somebody is sick. And interestingly, I had a little practice with this last week. So I have some things to share eventually on this when my son ended up not actually having the coronavirus, but we weren't sure at first. So we did all the things we thought we were supposed to do had he had it. Okay, and then we also need to focus on organizing our spaces to support all the things that we're doing. So it's unusual that we're all in our spaces as much as we will be in the upcoming weeks, and hopefully not months, but I think we need to really plan for that. And we need to focus on managing our minds. And actually, this is where eventually I'm going to start with some really tangible tools in the next video. But I just want to put that out there in this video because I think this is one of the most important things that we can do right now, and something that we probably don't let ourselves have much time to do in normal situations. Okay. So one of the reasons I'm showing up to do this is because I do have a planner. I have a system called the Flow Planning System, and I help women to plan their days in a way that really supports themselves and their families. And I do this when we're not in a crisis. But I saw right now that I could just tweak little parts of this process, and that it was going to really be able to hold a much broader group of people right now, and how amazing this process is for holding us in various situations. So the process is normally making 90-day plans. So 4 90-day plans a year. And so we're already focused on shorter plans than maybe we might usually make. We're also focused on really listening to our bodies, planning really holistically. And so you can start to see how maybe this would come in handy right now. So that's why I'm here doing this, is I would love more and more people just to understand this process and how planning can really hold you in this moment that might feel a little bit uncertain. Okay, so let's go through what FLOW stands for. So the F stands for food, but I added wellness, so food and wellness. And right now, in terms of food and wellness, I think what we're focusing on is how to plan when the shelves are empty or feeling empty. I wish I had added that word here. And we're really trying to stay healthy. Like, our goal right now is to have the best immune system that we can. In our lifestyle, the things that I've heard the most as I've been out on the interwebs is that we're having to really maintain our homes in a way that they can hold together with everyone home, and also our relationships when we're in such close quarters. So both of those things can kind of, come into a little bit of discourse when we're in it all the time, and there doesn't necessarily seem like there's a break. We're going to get into that though. And then the O in FLOW stands for OM. And to me, and especially in this case, OM is really managing your mindset in this stressful time. In normal circumstances, OM is also managing your mindset. It's also just about creating quiet. It's about self-care. It's about reflective time that we don't always let ourselves have. And then, of course, the W stands for work, which we probably have a lot to talk about right now. And this is all the things that are happening as we shift from working in offices to working at home. If we already work at home, like I do as an entrepreneur, which I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years now. We had, up until I had my third child, I had a physical office. Now I work a combo from home and a co-working space, and definitely utilize meeting people and going to cafes. So I think just because people work from home, we have a lot more tools that we have to use, but everybody's feeling stuck right now, right? So what does it look like to just work from home, especially with other people around you? And then included in work, because our kids, if we have kids, are working, I'm including homeschooling in that category, because balancing work with homeschool and really treating homeschooling as our kids' work, I think will be really helpful as we make these plans. So there is going to be a few videos as part of this series that I'm just doing the best I can to keep recording in closer vicinity to when I normally release content, but I want to get these out as soon as I can. So there's going to be separate videos for each of the FLOW categories as they relate to these times. And for the rest of this training, what I want to focus on is just the planning system itself. And I created some pages that you can download. The link will be below this video where you can go grab those pages, where I just modified the FLOW planning pages and systems and principles a little bit so that they could really reflect what we're going to talk about here today. Okay, so always rhythm and structure are calming. I know that might sound like not true to some of you, but it really is calming. And right now we're experiencing the opposite. So a lot of times I get the pushback that somebody doesn't want to plan because they want to be able to fly by the seat of their pants. Is that the saying? And they don't want to feel confined by a plan. But the thing is that when we're actually experiencing closer to chaos, which we are right now, maybe you can start to see how rhythm and structure really are a calming factor, because there's so many rhythms and structures that are just built into our life. And when those get pulled away, it's clearer to see how these tools can really help. So that's a lot what we're going to be creating when we create a plan. And the other thing I want to point out, and I'm definitely always a glass full kind of girl, like I'm not a glass half empty kind of girl, but I really deeply feel in my heart, in my gut, in my core, that we have an opportunity right now. And in my world, we have an opportunity to make a plan for now that is going to serve us in a deep and lasting way. All the things we plan for now, all the things we make space for, they are going to allow us to show up as different people on the other side of all this craziness. And I believe that so strongly that this is why I'm doing this. This is why I want to be there for you. This is why I want to show up for you right now. I really believe that we are going to come out of this stronger and happier and more connected and with way more tools and just awareness as we go through our daily life. And I want to add to that, if we let it be that way, because it is easy to spiral out in times like this and to numb out in times like this. And I really want you to see this as an opportunity to do something different, and a plan really helps with that. So I'm finding that it is helpful to be able to design a week out at a time. And a week out for me right now is kind of like how I almost see like 90 days or a year normally in the flow planning process. Like, I'm fully aware that things could change in a week. So I have this understanding that we really are in a mode where we're living day to day. This is not like, I can't plan a week and expect it to go just as planned, but the vision of a week is very helpful. Vision is very helpful when you're making a plan, and it's harder to see day to day. So what I'm doing is I'm planning out a week, and then each evening I'm recommitting to the next day, the day that's coming after that evening. And I tweak anything as I need to. And this might be as the circumstances change, either with me or with my family. You know, we did have, my son got the flu last week, right when we were in the beginning of starting to stay home. And that shifted things, right? It shifts what you want to eat, how you're going to eat, how you're going to clean things, how people move through the house. It changes a lot of things. So circumstances, both in the outside world and in our inside homes, and in our emotions, might be changing. And we may have to respond to that in ways that we don't usually let ourselves. All right, so it's really, really important that a lot of what I'm talking about, you don't just listen to and take in and move around in your head, but that if you're not printing out the planning sheets that we're supplying for you, that you take out paper, you have a book dedicated to this, you have some scrap paper, whatever it is, but there is definitely some positive things that can happen when you get this out of your head. So we're having a lot of fun crafting our days. My kids are having a fun time crafting their days. They're actually doing it they have these little whiteboards that we refound. We didn't go out and get them. We had them in our house. And they've been crafting their days and putting structure to their days, which has also been really helpful. I don't think that could have happened if we weren't really carefully crafting our own. It was sort of a modeling situation. And that put a lot of ease, because the couple first days, it was all about sleeping in and more media than I ever have let and those kinds of things. But now we're back into a rhythm, and it feels really good. And I did put an asterisk here because I want to note that their days are based on my husband and my schedules. And I think that this is really important. We're going to get more into this when we get into the work section. But each evening we're meeting, like we're having a conversation, and my husband and I are sharing our schedules with each other, and the kids are listening, and then they can get crafty. And the reason that this is super important is because, like, for example, I've been interviewing all week for an event that I'm hosting in May. I hope, fingers crossed. If not, it will come out when all this hoopla ends. But I've been doing all these interviews, and we're able to do them because we're doing them from home. And my husband has calls all day that he needs to be on, and sometimes he needs us to be quiet, sometimes he's just listening, and we're moving around the house in those ways, and sometimes we can't have lots of noise. I have some musical kids, right? So we have a violin that needs to be practiced. We have different things that need to happen throughout the day. And so they're responding to what we need to get done. So it's really a week by week, day by day, because I want to be relevant and flexible. All right, so this is the week at a glance sheet that I made for you that you can go download below this video. This is the first part of planning your week, and I'm going to get into the other parts in one sec, but I want to take you through this sheet. So at the week at a glance, in that most left-hand column, we're starting off with your mission for the week. So I know it sounds like, well, gosh, how can I have that much to think about right now in all this chaos? But it's really helpful to have a mission. So it might be like this first week, our mission was really to hold the kids' emotions, let them a little more off the hook on school. With actually 2 of them, we don't have much school for them right now. And really just let them be, but hold them as much as we could, while also really getting our groundedness all working from home. Because at the end of the day, we need to be able to work to pay our mortgage and be able to buy food and all those things, right? So that was really our mission for this week, is to set the foundations. Now, next week, it might look a little different. Next week, I might have a lot in place, and maybe I'll focus more on their schooling, and we'll have, bigger chunks where I can be helpful. This week, there was more chunks. We looked at all their work and we decided a lot of what they could do on their own versus together. So each week, the mission might still shift, even though that we're in this strange thing. And I think it's really helpful to define that and understand that for yourself. It's really important to define how you want to feel. Now, especially in moments like this, you may be tested on that. You may not always feel that. We're going to feel crazy. We're going to have fear creep in. But how do you want to feel? Because if you know how you want to feel, then you can do the next step, which is start to write down what some of the obstacles to feeling that way are, which of course the current circumstance might be an obstacle, but you can get even more specific on that. And then you can decide just some thoughts to play with. And we're going to get really deep into this in the next video. So I'm just going to go over this really loosely, but in the next video, we're going to deep dive and I'm going to give you lots of examples. But you can decide if there's different thoughts you can play with that are going to get you closer to feeling the way that you want to feel, even given these obstacles, or certain activities you can play with or not play with. For example, if you're feeling really anxious, one of your obstacles might be that you keep getting sucked into Facebook and hearing all these comments. And so maybe one of the things to play with is, I don't want to be on Facebook. Like, how can I make it so I don't have to do that, right? And it's also, I think, really, 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 really important in these times. We always have this in our planner, actually, this last line. It's always part of the flow planning process. But I think it's really important in this time where it's really a community situation that we really figure out how we want to give. And what's super interesting at the beginning is how we want to give doesn't even take more time. It's actually the opposite. It's like we're giving other older generations health by staying home, right? Or maybe one week we need to give a kid more attention it's not working for, or we need to all put energy toward a parent who's alone and needs more needs more conversations with us. So it's like, what do you want to give? And how is that coming from sort of the rules of engagement of what we're supposed to be doing right now, of really staying home and being safe and all those things. Okay. So then the next column, I'm just going to quickly go back. So that was what's in the left-hand column, even though you can't see the whole left-hand column here. Now the middle column is I'm really going to dive into even deeper in the next video, but I also want to talk about it here. I'm going to really talk about how to get there in the next video. But here I want to point out that we have opportunities right now. And I think a lot of times when we're feeling a lot of fear and a lot of overwhelm, we're seeing all the limitations. And this is always true, but right now it's even more true. So in this column, I want us to write down, like, what are the things we could do this week? What are the wellness opportunities? Maybe it's that we're eating all vegetables while we can still go to the grocery store. Maybe it's that we're doing a little bit of research about the supplements that can really boost our immune system. Maybe we're getting out and walking as a family or figuring out how to do that in a way that doesn't put us in harm's way or put anyone else in harm's way. What are our family opportunities? There is no other time that I can think of that we are all home and don't have a lot of obligations. So sometimes, for example, in summer, like my husband and I might take vacation, and we might be taking vacation at a time, like of course we go on family vacations, but there's more like activities stacked into that, right? And kids want to go to camp, and there's never a time when we're sort of home in this way. During the holidays, we might all be home, but then there's all these extra like baggagey things that come with the holidays. So what are the opportunities in this? what are the growth opportunities in this? And I really want us to start to get clear on those. And again, you can start to think it now, and I'm going to walk through the process I go through in the next video, which is on the mindset piece. And then the third thing is like, what are the work and learning opportunities? And all of this is similar. It's just, I want you to think of all the different categories. I want you to think balanced in this, because I know that some people are seeing one and not the other. Like maybe you see how you could come together as a family, but it's feeling like your work is 100% jeopardized. So what though are the opportunities? And an interesting thing about time right now is that kids at school, us in a workplace, there's a lot of inefficiencies built into our life. Us sort of buffering or numbing out in shopping and being able to like give into that and spending money when we don't need to and surfing. Well, we still can surf the web when we don't need to, but there's a lot of like temptations that come up in life that we literally can't do right now. And so it's like, what are the opportunities that come out of that? Like there's a lot less distraction possibly if we create it that way, if we craft our lives that way. So then the third column, which I'll go back really fast so you can see it, and I think I took this off of the actual worksheet. I took off the coronavirus or the COVID-19 choices for the week. I just put choices for the week in the actual sheet that I'm giving you, because I decided I didn't want to pull that into your memory every second. But the choices column is really like looking out at your week and seeing some milestones and really understanding how those obstacles that are coming up in and the choices we can make around them throughout the week. So, and it's more of like, I feel like that column is more of a fact-finding column. So for example, today it's raining. So I would look at the weather for the week and I would write the sunny days and the rainy days, because then as I'm planning and I know that there's like not much opportunity to get outside, that when it's sunny, we should get out more. And when it's raining, it's okay to do other things, because I wouldn't want to plan a day of like lots of work and school on a sunny day and then have all this extra time for getting out on a rainy day and not have planned for that. Some of us are having to make money choices right now, right? So there's not only this virus, but there's also like some crazy stock market stuff happening, some economy stuff happening. So what does that look like? Is there anything that we need to plan for to remember on a certain day? At some point, some of us might have some health things. So are there certain markers that we need to remember on certain days? Same with food. Like maybe we want to decide in advance, you know, when we're going to go food shopping or how we're going to go food shopping, or if we put an order on online, if we can't end up going to the grocery store. If we're going to the grocery store, you know, one of the things we decided is we'd go as minimally as possible, and we'd try to be as helpful as possible when we go. So when we go, we ask a couple of people who are at higher risk what they need, and we go, but we're trying to be as planned about it as possible. So these are the kinds of things that you would capture in that third column, just so you can remember, so you're not holding them in your head, because the more that we hold in our head, the more we create chaos. Okay. So the next thing, so that's us planning our weeks. And then another thing that's really important now, and a lot of times I let people off the hook. We talk a lot about meal planning in this world, in this Plan Simple world, because I did write a book called Plan Simple Meals. So we talk a lot about meal planning. And a lot of times I just say that what's most important is, you know, the day before what you're going to eat the next day. Like that saves so much time in normal situations. It's unbelievable. And that does work now too, like just knowing the day before what you're having the next day. But I would say now more than ever, planning a week at a time is really, really useful, especially in this time where we don't want to go to the grocery store so often, and possibly eventually we're really shopping out of our own pantry. And so it will become more and more like a puzzle piece of how all these things work together. And so making a plan for that is huge. And one of the things I find fascinating about all the sort of quote, I have air quotes, but you can't see me, quote unquote, hoarding that's happened in the grocery stores and whole aisles disappearing, I think has more to do with, we make scarcity such a big deal in our minds, and when we get it down on paper, it actually all feels a lot more reasonable. So very early on, as I felt the fear coming up around like going hungry, which I think is so ridiculous in my suburban life. But I if I'm honest, that was coming up. Like, what if I can't feed my kids? Like, there's nothing on the shelves, blah, 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 all those stories we tell ourselves. And then it's like, if you make a plan, I realized we had enough food in our house for like whatever. It's not what we normally eat. It's not like, it wouldn't be variety, but I could feed us for almost 2 weeks without having even gone shopping. So I think it's really important to make that plan, whether you've gone shopping or not, just so you can be really real. A lot of the panic is not real. It's in our heads. And if we make this plan on paper, we can be kinder to our neighbors and coming from a place of a lot less fear. Okay. We're going to talk about meal plans, like more specifically about the food also in one of the other videos. So as I said at the beginning, the other videos, one of them is going to be about food and wellness. One of them is going to be about lifestyle. One of them is going to be about and one of them is going to be about work. The one's going to be about mindset. So I'm going to take it a little out of the normal order of flow. So I think food is the second one, but we'll get to all of them. And we'll cover more about like what to eat, and hopefully I'll have some resources for you of people who are throwing out some really great ideas to help us. Okay, so after we make a plan and we put it, for our meals and for our week, we want to get it into time. Now, here's the order that I recommend going. I recommend filling in the time in the next few weeks especially, but this might be one of those habits that you keep forever. I really recommend putting self-care in first. I recommend putting in mind management, which is a type of self-care, but I really wanted to pull it out as something separate, and we're going to be talking about that a lot in the next video. Food and wellness, like those three things I want us to plan for first. They don't have to take all day. They might take short amounts, but I don't want you not to do them because they are going to make you be able to do your work. They're going to make you be able to show up for your family. They're going to make everything run much smoother. Now, I'm always talking about mom getting her oxygen mask on first, and I believe it's important right now, but I also believe right now that we really need to be checking in with our spouses on these things as well and making sure that we're all doing this. And self-care and mind management are two things that we might all need a little bit of alone time to be able to really do well. So really carving that out for each other. Food and wellness, we can definitely do together. We can even do as a family, and maybe this is more of a time to do that than ever. And then we want to plan our most vital work. So notice how that's coming forth. And I feel like a lot of people are panicking about working from home with kids while they're homeschooling their kids. So I just want to note that those other three things come first, and then you put in your time for your most vital work and your kids' most vital work. Because here's the deal. Those things are so much more efficient at home and alone, which any entrepreneur and any homeschooling mom will tell you, but it's hard to believe until you experience it. So I want you to start with this way instead of having to find it out, because hopefully this won't go on so long that you find it out and then your kids are still out of school, because it can sometimes take us months to figure it out. So just trust me that if you do the self-care, you do the mind management, you're really feeding yourself well and taking care of your body, you will be able to do your most vital work, and so will your kids in much less time. And then we write in all other opportunities, which we'll get to. So as I said, because we're all in this together more than usual, so this week at a glance is something that's actually going to be part of the next version of the Flow Planner. It was not part of this first version that's been out for 3 years, but I got asked for it a lot. So it'll be part of the next one. And this is like mom's calendar usually, but I'm really finding it helpful right now in writing, because I'm not finding I'm as dependent on my Google Calendar right now. In writing is that I put other people's needs in my calendar as well. So I'm like really clear about who needs to practice their instrument, when that is. Sometimes we even have lessons, just because that makes noise when we have to be on these important conference calls. That actually comes before instrument practicing, but I put it in a different order now. Exercising, reading, like all the things, I put them all in for multiple people so I can sort of see them. And I've been using color-coded markers and pens and really having fun with the creative process of blocking out different people's time so that I can see our schedule all at once, and so can everyone else. And I will put some samples of that when we get to the work video, because I think that will be really helpful, but I'm just going to tell you about it for right now. Okay. Each night before you go to bed, you're going to look at your day and you're going to recommit to it. Now, I mentioned this at the beginning, but now I'm going to show you. So you plan your week, and that's fabulous. And you plan it in this sort of creative way in lists, and then you put it in the more organized productivity way into some time. I'm going to talk a little bit in a second about that, because I want to detach us a little from time in all this, but there's certain aspects of time that we just need to be part of our lives in order for us to move forward and make meetings and all those things. So each night you're going to look at your day and you're going to recommit to what you plan for the week. And if you need to, you're going to pivot. And right now, more than ever, we need to be okay with the pivot. All right. What if the music teacher gets sick? What if the kid gets sick? What if something changes about the weather that you noticed? Like, we're going to need to be able to pivot. Maybe something's changing in your work really quickly and you just need to be able to focus. It's okay to pivot. You just want to make sure that you're deciding as far in advance as you can, and it's going to be a little bit different right now, and that is okay. So what I'm doing is before I go to bed, I'm recommitting, and that's actually giving me a sense. The first couple of days I was home, I was like, wait, what day is it? Is it the weekday? Is it the weekend? It was really confusing. So really having this practice every evening is super helpful. And having these pieces of paper that I can just recycle after, by the way, is also super helpful, because I don't need to remember this. I just need to be in it in the day. So this is what the today sheet looks like. And again, we're calling out that time in a wider column than in the week at a glance sheet, so you can have a little bit more detail there around what's happening. But I want to go through what's in that right-hand column. So the right-hand column is around really waking up in the morning. And so you wouldn't fill this out the night before, by the way. You're really filling out mostly the left-hand column the night before, and some of these other, everything but the morning, the first and the last thing, actually, you're going to fill out in the evening. So the morning gratitude is something that you can leave by your bedside table, so you have it there right when you wake up, and you just write down what you're grateful for. And the more we can recall this and cultivate it right now in a time of great distress, it's so amazing how much a gratitude practice can shift how you feel, how it can shift fear. It can literally shift you out of fear. So really get to a really honest place around your gratitude every morning, and it will set you off on a whole different day than you would have if you didn't do this. Okay, so back to the night before. You're going to have it on your bedside table to do that morning gratitude, because you're going to have it before you go to bed to fill in all this stuff. So how are you going to take care of yourself? We need our oxygen masks on. We've got a lot going on. Like, what are you going to do the next day to take really good care of yourself? Are you going to wake up a little early and do a meditation? Are you going to eat really well? Are you going to make sure you get some fresh air? Are you going to make sure you remember to brush your teeth? I don't care what it is, but something. You need to do something that really you can say, I did that and I am taking good care of me. You're going to manage your mindset. You're really going to figure out, what you're going to do the next day that will help you manage your mindset. And some days that might look like some of the practices that I'm going to give you in the next video on mindset. Some days it might be not watching the news. Some days it might be just making sure you do that morning gratitude practice. So we'll get into some examples in the next one, but I want you to decide the night before how you're going to do that, because this is like an added level of self-care that it's so important to do right now. How are you going to move your household forward? So our homes all of a sudden are going to seem like a different level of work, because we're in them, we're using them probably more than we've ever used them before. So, and everyone's home. So in some senses, it could be easier, right? Because everyone's home. So maybe they can fold the laundry, maybe they can wash the dishes. But in reality, we have to plan for that, because otherwise, why would that happen, right? Why would they listen to us? So So really make a plan for what it looks like to move your house forward and how you can do that the next day. Okay, connecting with those you love. So another thing that happens when we're all in close quarters is we can all get on each other's nerves. So all these things where we're seeing the good in a situation, they're just helping us pull out the opportunity to grow, to love, to feel really good in a time that doesn't feel good, like on the outside, because we have control over some things that we do. And the more that we can feel this control and plan for this control and really nurture this control, the better we feel and the better that we're able to contribute back into our families and our communities. Okay. Then that's the first column. The second little column is what are 3 tasks that reflect your opportunities? And we're going to get into what some of those opportunities will be in one of the next videos, or I can't remember if we do it here, but we do it somewhere. I'm going to talk you through how to figure out, what are good opportunities for right now. And so each day, like, move toward those, pick those, like really see 3 things that you show up to as opportunities. So you're not just sitting on your couch, you're clearly doing something that is going to move you toward what it is that you want to do. Okay. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at habits that support your opportunities. So I'm going to start sharing. I'm super excited, but I have had this amazing opportunity, this amazing privilege of interviewing people for an event that I'm putting on in the spring, as I think I said at the beginning of this video. And one of the things I did was I asked them little tips for right now. And there was a lot of habits that came out of that. So we have this opportunity right now with all this extra time to work on habits that we don't always work on, that we don't always have the time for. And in fact, everyone who I interviewed said the number one obstacle for most people in normal times is time. So right now we have it, so we can work on all these habits. We have an opportunity to work on habits that really support us. Okay. So we're going to think of all those things the day before. And then the last thing I ask for is magic moments. And this you might do. This might be sort of a ritual you have before you go to bed, that you have the sheet from the current day and the sheet for the next day, and you reflect on the magic moments from the day past. Because as you make these plans, as you show up as a positive light in your household, in your life, in your work, for your kids, in your community, just for yourself, you will experience some magic. And it's really important to document that magic. You could do it in a journal if you want it more long lasting, and these papers are going to get recycled. But really make sure that you're benchmarking your days with this. So it's like you're starting your days with gratitude for what is about to become, and you're reflecting on the magic that happened in the day at the end of the day. And as you come out of that magic, you'll be in a better place to start planning for the next day, which you're going to do every night before you go to bed. All right? Okay. So the only thing I want to point out, because I'm going to go back a little bit, but like the today sheet and the week sheet, as you can see, have time. And they have time because we live in a world that we have to meet people and do things at certain times. And like I have to show up for a Zoom meeting for my clients at 8 p.m. Or, tomorrow at 12 p.m. we have our weekly check-in meeting. My son has to show up for his music lesson at 5. So there's things that happen at time. But rhythm is way more important than time, I think, always, but especially right now. And so I think that this is really important. So as you're putting things in time, just be clear that just pay attention to the rhythms. And this is a lesson that you can definitely take into, out of this season that we're in right now. And the thing I guess I want to say about rhythm is when rhythm is a way to, and we're going to get into what this means actually in the mindset video, but rhythm is a way to do things in order, group things together that are just attached to other moments that you already know are happening versus time, right? So I wash my hands for 20 seconds now before every meal, right? Or I wash my hands for 20 seconds every time I walk in the front door. So that is a rhythm that I can create. I'm not having lunch every day at 12:00, but every time before I eat lunch, I do that. I'm not walking in the door from our walk every day at the same time, but every day I come in, I do that, right? So that is a rhythm. Maybe I fill out my worksheets every day before I get into the shower for the evening or after I get out of the shower, right? So there's certain things that I might do every day and I attach these, and that is rhythm. And I want you to trust your rhythms more now than ever, because that will really help you get through the days in a really, really nurturing way. So every day we want to learn. Everything that you do for the upcoming weeks will serve you when life goes back to normal. And the coolest thing I think about all this is that I am hugely optimistic that there will be a new normal. And I'm really excited to see what that looks like for anyone who watches this video. So go to plansimple.com. That's our website. You might be there watching this right now, but if you're not, look in the bar at the top of the page. That is where we're always going to have the next class or the next community event. That's where you'll be able to find all the content as it relates to this unique time and also going forward. And one of the things that I am trying to do is have a container where people can meet and plan and talk about some of these things so that we can really thrive in this climate right now, because that is what our children need of us.